All right, let's take a look now. Let's take you straight to Abongile Jantjies, who's actually standing by with the latest. He was with the president a short while ago. Abongile, it's good to have you with us. So I'm gathering from the president there, he's saying, confirming that 78 people have been confirmed dead. And of course, there are more missing. So that number could still rise. So tell us, what is the latest situation like where you are at this stage?
Well, the president just concluded that media briefing, Alicia, and he's sticking to that 78, which was confirmed earlier on by Minister Velengosini Hlabisa, and he does say that there are a few that are still missing because the families have come out to identify those people who were unaccounted for. So he is saying there's still a few, but the number is likely to rise. You recall that the numbers are, the updates come at an hourly basis, but seemingly a few is still missing. So he is saying those words, and he did visit this area to see for himself the situation here in Mthatha, particularly this area where we're at, and we want to engage with some of the community member here who is engaging with one of our colleagues, and he was the one who was detailing to the president how was it like during that time of when these floods hit the area. You are live on SABC channel 404. Please stand this side, please. You've briefed umongameli ngokwenzekileyo kwezantsuku njengoba beze apha namhlanje. Uziva njani tatam? Ucinga uba uncedo ezithembiso azenzileyo uba sizofezekiswa? Unalo ithemba?
Ndinalo kuba thina from safika ngo-2012 apha siyaqala uke sibone kwa upremier ezonyathela apha, siyaqala ubona umongameli ezonyathela apha. Njengoba kudala sikhala singumzi walapha eZwelandile eMthatha West, akho nenye office karhulumente walapha eEastern Cape esingakhange sanqonqoza kuyo. Sikhala ngombane, sikhala ngamanzi, sikhala ngezindlu zangasese zokuzinceda, sikhala ngendlela. Zange sizifumane ezo zinto. Siyaqala kubona kumongameli efika apha ngenxa yoba kusekwehla esisithwakumbe. Nangoku inhliziyo zethu azikaxoli kuba akukho lula ubona imiphefumlo yabantwana babantu ithe gangalala okwegusha okanye okwe-animals. Umntu ngumntu, not into abhubhe ngolahlobo abhubha ngalo. Okwesibini, if bekuthiwa bekungekho dark ngalamini, hlezimbe eminye imiphefumlo ngeyisindile. Kule ndawo sibona sime kuyo, amacingo uyawabona awile. Omnye umntu ngelinye ixesha bephuma endlini kube egijima ebaleka amanzi, wafika wahakeka ecingweni kuba kumnyama akayiboni indlela uba makabheke kweliphi icala.
Okay, but ndike nam ndithethe ndiyakuva noko intlungu isabhaliwe kuwe ebusweni. Kodwa ke umongameli uzile apha ndiyakuva uthetha ngemiba ye-service delivery. Kodwa ke omnye umcimbi umanovuswa ngabasemagunyeni kubana nina ningabahlali nakhe kwindawo erongo, yiloo nto ndifumana isithwakumbe zokumila nje. Ingaba wena bhuti wam njengoba kukho isimemelelo ukubana abantu mabafuduke kule ndawo, ingaba wena nosapho lwakho nizimisela ukwenza oko?
Nkosi yam, andizimiselanga ukwenza oko ukubana ngaba sifuduke apha. Xa ujonga i-distance kule ndawo sime kuyo yoba amanzi angazofika, angeke azofika amanzi apha. Yiloo nto simemelela kurhulumente okokubana ngaba urhulumente makasungule igqiza lakhe elikhethekileyo ke liphande into yoba la manzi unobangela wawo asuka kweliphi icala. Zange umlambo wagcwala kangaka ngosuku nje oluyi-1 because le mvula inethe only ubusuku obuyi-1, ayoveki. Umlambo udla ngogcwala imvula xa inethe iveki apha.
Enkosi kakhulu tata, sicela speaker manefana.
Ndinguthemba lipheli Majeke, nkosi yam. Enkosi mhlekazi.
Ndiyabulela kakhulu. That's one of the survivors, Alicia, who's telling us that even though there are calls by the authorities that they should vacate these low-lying areas, he is saying that him and his family will never leave this area, saying that there is a sense of sabotage of what has happened, something that has been denied by the president, saying no one would intentionally mess with the water systems for the water to overflow like that and cause these floods to happen here in this area of Mthatha. Well, that's the president's visit for this area. He is now heading back elsewhere. elsewhere. That was the last stop, and with that, Alicia, we are now tossing it back to you in studio.
All right, Abongile, a very quick one before I let you go, because I understand you were just, of course, in the vicinity with the president there. Of course, the Culture Minister Velenkosini Mthatha was also there alongside Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane. Any plans at this stage to declare disaster in that particular province?
Yesterday, Minister Hlabisa, he said they are classifying it as a disaster and not declaring it as a disaster. So that classification allows for intervention to happen, but should there be a need and see those allocated resources don't meet what's needed on the ground, then they may consider heading to the declaration of a disaster. But for now, it's a classification of disaster, and he is saying that they've already deployed technical support and engineers for infrastructure to see that what they are deploying is indeed helping these communities, these vulnerable communities who were found here. And even before we got here, we visited the area where the people from this area were evacuated, where the residents pointed out these issues of service delivery, the lack of electricity, the lack of water in this area. So with that classification, they are hoping that the much needed services that are needed in this area, particularly when it's added to these floods, they will also be looked into. So for now, it's a classification of a disaster. They'll give it time frames, and the local authorities, your local government sphere, your municipality is assessing a report together with the provincial Cocta department, so that it can be consolidated, and then the funds will then be available, sent to this area for that intervention which is needed by these communities.
And then, Abongile, talk to us about the rebuilding process. The president also just on air there, fully committed to assisting those affected residents as they rebuild or try and salvage any semblance of their normal lives. Have you seen anything in this regard? Have you seen any materials being, of course, transported in for those people that have literally basically have no shelter?
For now, it's just that temporary relief, Alicia. Your blankets, your mattresses for where they are placed currently. And for now, we haven't seen anything of a human settlement nature that maybe temporary structures they could be given for while they are still assessing their place. But what the Cocta minister said, even if they come with those form of assistance, they don't want them to be deployed in this area where we're at, where it's flooding, because bringing them here, another disaster might occur, and then even that intervention would have been swept away. So the conversation going forward is to persuade them to leave this area, but just like my guest said, they are reluctant to leave this area, and we are expecting, going on through to this week, that we are heading those efforts, finding the land where some who are convinced to leave this area will be allocated, and then those temporary structures will be then deployed to them. So it's still quite a process. They'll be spending this weekend where they are, the community halls, the churches, and a center there where we were at. So they should be there for this. Then next week, more resources will be deployed to this area.
All right, Abongile, we're going to certainly keep monitoring those developments there out in flood-stricken Mthatha province out in the Eastern Cape. That was SABC News reporter there, Abongile Jantjies, and he's joining us from there. A site visit by the president an hour earlier had, of course, where they were just giving him, bringing him up to speed as to what the extent of the damage and what actually took place.